All right, everybody. Welcome back into the Auburn Live Football Show. Appreciate everybody for joining us. I'm Justin Hokanson. With me, as always, is Cole Pinkston. Cole, what's up, man?
Well, I'm doing pretty good. Allergies are back, so forgive me if I have to hit the mute button a few times. But other than that, just stayed up all night trying to get through the end of this game on the play script as well.
Yeah.
That was fun.
Yeah. Brutal one. All right, let's jump into that real quick. Before we do, as always, quick shout out to our main sponsor of the show, Session Cocktail in downtown Auburn. Go give them a shout. Go check them out. Go say hey. They're right there on Magnolia Avenue, right next to Taco Mama. They got a brand new menu. They have some great happy hour drinks from 4 to 6. Just a really cool vibe, good environment. Great place to be on this Saturday. You got a late game. You got a 6 p.m. ESPN game against Ole Miss. Get in town early. Go by there in the afternoon. I don't know what time they open. Generally open a few hours before the game, something like that. Go watch the game if you're not going in. Have some drinks. So go check them out. Session Cocktail, downtown Auburn. They got some of these hats. So this is a hat from Session. They have they just got in a bunch though that are blue, and the white right here is orange. So this is kind of their logo, which is a drink. That's orange, and then it has a few words on the back right there. They're orange, but it's a blue and orange hat. So go by there and check them out and get you a hat, get you an orange and blue hat from Session, and tell them that Auburn Live sent you. All right, Cole. I was in Baton Rouge. Great environment. Great environment. I'll say that. They do it well. That whole stadium, that whole place is phenomenal. I mean, just the way they've finished the way the outside of that stadium has a finished look, and they have kind of different pavilions and just finished areas outside. It looks amazing. Makes me wish Jordan Hare Stadium was more finished on the outside, and some different things like that. But yeah, the stadium is awesome. It's huge, obviously 102,000 people. But I love the way it's finished and just kind of the areas around it. It's really nice. And pregame was awesome. I mean, it's just a cool place to go to a game. I mean, they do it right, man. Garth Brooks gets them lit. He played call in Baton Rouge, and that place goes crazy. They did it a few times. Huh?
Gets me lit too. I can understand that.
I mean, they dial up calling Baton Rouge, man. That place goes from 0 to 10 if it's not already there. And then the game started, man. And what a disappointing, frustrating, demoralizing Saturday night in Baton Rouge. That line crept from I think it opened at 14. It got down to 10.5 by game time. And I think most people thought Auburn was going to go in there and compete. I certainly did. And they did not. I'm less, concerned about the loss. LSU was going to win. You predicted LSU would win the game. I thought it would be the double-digit game. LSU is just they're really talented, and that's a tough place to play on the road. I'm less concerned with losing the game as opposed to the way that game started. And I would say the whole game went, because the second half was pretty pathetic too, to give up 4 touchdowns on 4 possessions and just get shredded in the second half as well. But the first quarter, to have 2 weeks off and come out and that's your first quarter, was shocking to me. I did not see that coming. I knew that was going to be a tough environment, but I also thought with 2 weeks to prepare that Auburn would not just have a solid game plan, but that the players would have confidence in that game plan because they've had time to prepare for it. And I thought they would come out in a lot better shape in that first quarter. And LSU, like Swiss cheese, goes right down the field and scores. Auburn comes out, nearly commits 2 penalties and a bad snap on their first drive. And at the end of the first quarter, it's 17-0, and you've been outgained 216-45. That's what was most shocking to me was, we had somebody on a board was like, did we even practice this week? And I know they're half joking, but the fact that you're making that joke when you had 2 weeks is is bad. So I don't know, that's my biggest takeaway. I mean, there's a lot of things that went wrong. It's a lot of the same stuff we've seen. There's nothing new that we didn't see anything new out there that we haven't seen in terms of why things went wrong. But the start and the lack of a game plan and execution of it. And I even wonder about the game plan because the first 2 drives of that game for Auburn offensively looked completely different than the third drive and some of the drives later on. And I just don't really know what they were trying to do. I mean, you've got the worst rushing defense in the league, and you come out and you don't run the ball until the third series of the game. It just confusing, man. I thought Auburn had started to find a little bit of offensive identity and say, okay, for us to win, this is what we got to be. And then what I saw against Saturday was kind of something I mentioned last week that I was worried about was that they would come out and almost try to do too much against a defense that struggled instead of just forget how bad they've been. Do what you're good at, which is run the ball. And I thought they tried to be cute in some areas. So disappointing, man. I thought all the positive momentum from Georgia was wasted. Now you come back home and you've got to rebuild confidence now to try to upset Ole Miss instead of stacking another good performance and coming into Ole Miss with a bunch of confidence. That's all gone. And you now got to figure out how to game plan and build that confidence back up to try and upset Ole Miss. And so it's just a bad weekend, man. Bad weekend. A few steps backwards, in my opinion.
Yeah, that first offensive drive kind of foreshadowed what was going to happen in that game. I think it's a lack of confidence throughout the whole team. It's not just Peyton Thorne; it's everybody. Everybody's got a confidence issue right now. Everybody's nervous. I don't know why they're so tight, but Hugh Freeze is tight and nervous. So that's why. I mean, that's probably why. The play calling is that way too. They don't do things logically, in my opinion. I said this on the Collins show last night. I don't understand the logic behind like what you said, coming out and passing it and not running the ball against the defense who hasn't run the ball, who hasn't stopped the run, and you've been running the ball really well. I can't make sense of that. I don't have an answer for that. Maybe that's asked in the press conference today. We'll see, and that's just a weird coaching call. I don't understand that part. And we've sat here and we've, criticized Peyton Thorne and other things with the team. And I come back to going, the last thing you need is a weird coaching game. It is a weird game plan, like a weird take on the game from the coaches. And that's what you got. So now confidence is way too low for what it should be because your record is really what we all expected it to be at this point. Nobody thought you were going to beat those 3 teams on Murder Row here on your schedule. I mean, if you did, you had wishful thinking, right? It was pretty much going to be losses, and that's where you're at. And confidence is lower than it should be. Now, I think recruiting and how well you've done with that to this point set the bar pretty high for you with expectations for fans. And that's why a lot of fans are like so let down right now. And I can understand it. With what you're seeing offensively, it's regression. It's not getting better. So something has to change major. There has to be a major change this week.
Yeah, I just I don't know. I don't know what that change would be outside of Hugh Freeze completely taking over play calling, which we know he's been more involved the last couple of weeks, certainly in the planning of it. Um, but I don't know really what kind of major change there would be. Um, unless Hugh Freeze takes the play calling over completely. I think that would help. But even the play calling, look, we're not on the headset. So when we talk about Hugh Freeze should take over play calling, against Georgia, he approved every play on the call sheet. I would assume he did the exact same thing for LSU. He can have as much input as he wants right now. So I don't know. There's a rhythm to it, and if you're not doing it if you're not doing it all the way, then you're probably not doing it. You know what I mean? There's difference in Hugh Freeze could be on the headset. He could have the play sheet. He could be listening to everything. He could be giving his input. But unless you are calling every single play and you're going to call every single play for the whole game, it's not the same. There's a rhythm to play calling. So like if Freeze needs to do it, he needs to do it. Because you're going to call something in the first quarter that you're going to set up in the third and all that stuff. And so that would be a major change. And I kind of hate it for Philip Montgomery because from what I can tell, there's no reason for me to think Philip Montgomery is doing anything wrong. Freeze is right there over his shoulder, approving the plays, approving the plan the last couple weeks. So I think Philip Montgomery is probably getting a little bit of a bad rap here, and I don't know that he deserves it. I mean, Freeze is right there. At any point, Freeze could take this over or whatever. And after a lot of those games, Freeze has said, I like the game plan. I thought we had a good game plan. He said it after LSU. I thought we had a good game plan. I just think they're lacking. They're lacking in some talent issues. Let's just be real about that. First of all, the receivers are not good enough. They're just not. Give Peyton Thorne. Look, Brian Kelly said it. And we talked about it on the board, and it was a big discussion. Give Peyton Thorne, Malik Neighbors, Kyron Lacey, and Brian Thomas Jr. and tell me what kind of criticism you think Peyton Thorne's going to get. Peyton Thorne's not a world beater. I get it. It's fine. He's a pretty good player, though. Give him a couple of NFL receivers, and what do you think happens?
6,000 yards.
I mean, I'm kind of getting tired of the quarterback debate because it's so surface level. It's the easiest thing to point to. I watched that game. I was there. I didn't see not one time during that game did I go, boy, Peyton Thorne is just not. He was not the standout problem to me. I mean, I get that he was 12 of 23, 100 yards. He wasn't the problem to me. He made a few plays with his legs. Would have had a big first down conversion if not for a hold in the
third.
What was that? I can't remember when that was, but the game was still somewhat in Auburn was in the
start of the third quarter, I believe.
I can't remember when that was, but it was it was like a 3rd and 16.
Yep.
Like he made a few plays with his legs. I just don't see him as the issue. Not in that game. A&M was a different game for him. A&M was a game where it looked like he wasn't looking downfield. He got sacked a bunch, and it was a disaster. I didn't see that last night. I mean, LSU wasn't sacking him left and right. It was just, I just don't think everything he throws, it's like it's just really contested. And to me, some of that comes down to being able to separate yourself as a receiver. I didn't love some of the shots they took, and Hugh Freeze talked about it after the game. A couple of the sideline one-on-ones they threw. I think they tried to Fairweather. They tried to Nick Marner. They tried to Hooks.
Yep.
He explained. I'm glad Hugh Freeze explained some of those. I wrote about it after the game. I was like, what is Auburn doing? I mean, there's so low percentage throws, and with this offense, you can't afford to just waste plays to me on a jump ball, one-on-one down the sideline, especially on second down. And then you come back, and now a team that can't convert a third down to save their life faces a 3rd and 6. But Hugh Freeze talked about it after the game. He said that's part of the RPO read, and they would bring a safety after they hit those few to Camden Brown.
Yeah,
they switched the way they were playing the safeties, and so the read was one-on-one. And he's like, that's how the play's designed. But geez, this offense isn't good enough to just take a shot one-on-one down the sideline like a back shoulder throw on 2nd and 6. basically every time this offense, that's going to be incomplete. And so you might as well do it. Now you're facing 3rd and 6. So I didn't love a few of those that I think cost them drives. I don't know. To me, it's lack of playmakers at receiver that's not going to get fixed. You saw a little bit of Caleb Burton, saw a little bit of Camden Brown, but they just don't have the receivers to separate. But again, it goes back to why you're not pounding the football. I don't get what I watched on Saturday. I really am just thoroughly confused by that because I sat there and listened to Hugh Freeze after Georgia say that's the kind of team we're going to have to be. Shorten the game, run the ball. He said it before LSU. We're going to have to shorten the game. So it's not you and me making up what we think they should be. He's said it. He knows the team they should be. And then you come out against LSU and it's pass, 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 pass to start the game. And it just doesn't make sense. I don't get it.
I want to hit on a couple things you said there. I want to start with those sideline fade back shoulder shots that you're talking about to Hooks, Mardner, and who was the other one? Fairweather.
Pretty sure Rivaldo. Yeah.
All right. I hate to be this way, but I do understand football a little bit, and I know this. You are making it very, very difficult on your quarterback. I don't care who's the quarterback. Make it Robbie Ashford. That's fine. He's going to have a hard time with this too. You can put Jaden Daniels there. He'll have a hard time with this. They are letting the corner squeeze them into the boundary down the field. Okay, I saw this 3 times, and it was those 3 guys. What does that mean? That means there's no space for you to put the ball as the quarterback. 4 yards. This is what I learned in college. 4 yards. You're supposed to have 4 yards between you and the sideline to give the quarterback a chance to give you a ball. The corner's taught to close you in. LSU did that all night, and there was no repercussion from the receiver. They're not trying to body them out. That's like a fundamental issue or something. I don't know how to explain that part. And I don't want to go too deep into that. I don't know the reason why they're doing that. So that's a problem. That's a small detail, but that turns into a missed play. I mean, that's small. But you're talking about 3 plays right there that are just dead. They're dead plays in the game plan because they can't execute it. And everybody's going to blame the quarterback on that, and they still will after I've explained this, and that's fine. But you're wrong. It's the receivers got to give them some room. That's like 101 stuff. All right. Number 2, it's maybe the answer is not Hugh Freeze. Maybe his offense is not going to be better than what Philip Montgomery's doing because I don't think Philip Montgomery's doing a horrible job. I think he schemed up a lot of good plays this year. I thought the game plan this week, whoever came up with it was the word I used was weird. I just don't understand it. I don't even know if I can call it bad. It was just weird. And it makes sense.
Yeah.
But Hugh Freeze calling plays may not be the answer, but I'll tell you what it will do. It will loosen him up a little bit. Because right now he's tight, son. And he's got to loosen up because the whole team plays just like he's acting on the sideline. Tight. And if he's calling plays, at least he'll loosen up a little bit. It may not work. I don't know. I just want to see him play a little bit looser. I think games will be closer if they play looser. I really do believe that. So give him the play calling reign or let him take it over. I think that might be the answer. Now put that on the board last night, and it ain't against Philip Montgomery. I have no problem with him. But sometimes an offensive coordinator like Philip Montgomery knows the things it takes to win a game, whether you can execute them or not. All right? You can't sit there and go, well, we can't execute it. Can't do it. You can't do that with everything. Yes, you take some things out, you move some things around, you say, all right, this one for sure is not going to work. This one might. And it can win us the game. There's a lot of that going on right now because they don't really know what they can execute. And I know that by those 3 plays you pointed out, Rivaldo Fairweather, Nick Marner, and Shane Hooks. They're not creating separation in a play that all you have to do is not let the corner push you into the boundary. It's not that hard. It's just a small detail that they're missing on right now, and then it throws the whole thing out of whack. And Peyton Thorne is never going to be able to complete those throws, nor is any quarterback, because that's not how it's supposed to be. You got to be perfect as quarterback to make those throws. Perfect. And that's a lot to ask. It's a tough ask.
Yeah.
And I can't see all the routes on the TV. Even when we're in the press box looking at things, I can't sit there and look at every route and critique it. But I saw those, and I know that's a problem. So that there's probably other little problems elsewhere that are causing turmoil within the offense as a whole. And I just think that needed to be pointed out.
No, you're exactly right. I mean, it's what makes them so low percentage. There's just no room to work. You're asking an average receiver to go make a jump ball. It's just, but again, they're supposedly the right call. Supposedly that's exactly what should have happened. And I'm like, well, then there's a problem. Like that can't be what's happening. Like, I understand you saying, well, that's the way the play's designed, but this offense can't play like that. They cannot waste plays on a one-on-one like that. So you got to shift that. I was just looking. Auburn threw the ball on first down 7 times in the first half, only twice in the second half. I was looking at how many times they threw the ball so 7 times they threw the ball on first down in the first half alone, which is just too many.
Yeah.
7 first downs you came out throwing the football in the first half alone. I don't know, man. I don't know what the answer is. One of the things that Hugh Freeze talked about was trying to maybe go up tempo a little bit. He said that's something they've been debating internally. It didn't sound like they're going to do that. Because we know the disadvantages to that. I mean, this offense isn't that efficient anyway. So going up tempo might just get you on the sideline quicker. But I don't know, try to piece something together. I don't know, run the ball on first down and then try to go tempo, even if you only get a yard or two. They got to figure out something, because one of the things he talked about was obviously it could put your defense back on the field quicker, things like that. Well, look, the defense isn't world beaters right now either. We're all talking about the offense, and yeah, it's a mess. But that defense for 3 games now is giving up some points and some yards. It's starting to look a little bit more like what we thought it would. Got a few injuries, but they're not playing a lot of snaps. They're only playing about 60-something snaps. This isn't a thing where Auburn's defense is on the field playing 80 snaps, and that's why they're giving up yards and points. They're the last 3 games they've played about 62, 63 snaps a game. I think the turnovers have masked that. They've created some turnovers that have been nice, but the biggest thing to me is they're just not creating pressure. They cannot create pressure, and it just puts too much pressure on your back end to try to cover. And you can't create the kind of negative plays you want. And so without the turnovers, they're just kind of helpless if you can't create pressure on top of that. So I think it's killing them not being able to get to the quarterback. They tried to blitz some, but LSU, they didn't get home on a few blitzes. And that's just so risky against Jaden Daniels. I mean, they sat back a few times and Jaden Daniels completed balls. That's just a tough deal where what do? You blitz Jaden Daniels, he takes off and runs. It's a tough deal. But now the defense is giving up yards and points too. So I don't really think you have a ton to lose by trying to go up tempo at times. Even if you put your defense in a tougher spot. If you're not going to shorten the game, then do something. Like, do one of the two to me. Either say, we're just gonna go tempo. Like we're just gonna do it, even at times where it maybe doesn't make sense. We're gonna try to do something. to give us an advantage on offense. And tempo might do that. Doesn't allow the defensive to align. Tempo in the run game a little bit. We need to do something. Or actually decide we're going to run the ball 68% of the time, period. We're just going to be, it's going to be 3 yards in a cloud of dust in a spread formation. And use Peyton Thorne's legs a little bit, run more zone read stuff, mix in the RPO, but run the ball and commit to it. Commit to it. No more one-on-one fades down the sideline. No more bubble screens outside that go nowhere, that lose 2 yards. Like, commit to actually running the football. Like,
the best thing that they had, I think, was the Robbie Ashford package when you're doing the power read and the jet sweep kind of look with Jeremiah Cobb. And that's where they had a lot of success, and they've had a lot of success with it every time they've tried it. And, in the Georgia game, they did the same stuff that they do with Robbie Ashford with Peyton Thorne too. And it kept their defense on their toes. So there is a way to use both quarterbacks. I don't know if you should. I'm not saying you should, but there's obviously the quarterback debate will go on forever because Peyton Thorne's probably going to go back out there and be the starter, if I had to guess. But there is a case for Robbie Ashford. He made a good throw. They gave him one chance to throw the ball, actually throw it downfield, and he made a good one. So what do you do with that?
There's only a case for Robbie Ashford if you go and run your offense from last year. Exactly. That's the best case for Robbie Ashford. If you're going to run this offense, he's not the best case.
No, probably not. And the reason for that is because they don't trust him. They haven't given him a chance to run this offense. So they obviously don't trust it. If they're going to go with him, they're going to change it up a lot. And maybe that's for the better. I don't quite know the answer to that. But bottom line is they do need to run the football more. I don't know why the thought was, hey, defense hasn't stopped the run all year. We're not going to run it this week. That's where I'm confused, and I just don't get it, and I don't have an explanation for it. Thing about it is, I think when you get behind, like Auburn did so quick, I think even the best play callers get uncharacteristic, and that's where you start having problems. And I have this theory that I'm forming right now with the offense and the defense balance. The defense does not have a lot of depth at all. Kaden Lee plays every snap at corner. He's a freshman. Not that he's bad, but he's a freshman. It's not really ideal. Keldrick Falk played a lot more snaps than I thought he was going to play. He's a freshman. He does some good things, but, I mean, that's, again, you try to work these kind of guys in there when they're still learning, or you're going to give up some big plays at times. It's just part of it. It's no knock against them talent-wise. Those guys are freaks. They're going to be really good for Auburn. Right now, they need to be worked in the game plan a little bit more, and you don't have a choice because that's what your depth determines. So I think the offensive, and this is just me trying to understand what the idea was. I think they believe that the offense they're trying to run with Peyton Thorne is better for Auburn's defense because they think they can sustain drives longer, even if they don't score points.
It's a balancing act. Yeah.
I know that doesn't make sense because it doesn't make a lot of sense to me even saying it, but that's what I think they're doing. That's my theory about what the game plan is and why it looks so strange at times. I think they're so worried about this defense and the depth that they know they've got to find a way to at least sustain a drive and get a first down.
And they should be. I mean, they should be. The defense isn't good enough. We know that. The defense isn't good enough. They played pretty well early in the season, but those were nobodies. They had some moments against Georgia, had some moments against A&M, but we know they're not there yet. The thing I mentioned on the podcast last week about that Georgia game that was in the back of my head was, what if they don't get those 2 turnovers? What if they don't make those 2 turnovers against Georgia? what is that? I mean, Auburn gave up 400 yards of offense and 27 points in that game, and created 2 turnovers.
Right.
And made like no mistakes, made no penalties. It was always in the back of my head, like, man, if that's the line, if the margin of error, and we saw against LSU, if the margin of error is you got to be +2 and commit no penalties, I mean, that's a hell of a lot to ask to try to go compete. But you're right. Hugh Freeze said it after the game. He goes, it's a balancing act with the tempo. Should we run more tempo? But then we got to worry about the defense, and it's a team game, and there's no question he doesn't want to put that defense in a just horrific position.
Yeah, and I think the problem that people are having with it, and the reason why there's such an outpour of emotion with this, and people are losing their minds over this. When you look at the big picture, you go, well, I mean, Auburn's where there's probably we're going to be no matter what with this rebuild going on. But I'm with the outrage of the offense because it's not hard. It's not easy to comprehend why they're doing some of the things they're doing and why it's so tough and why they make offense look so hard. But I think they're so worried about certain things. At this point, man, you're through murder row of your schedule. I just don't see why you don't let it fly and you just do some of these things that you're good at and go for it. Hey, you were pretty good at tempo earlier in the year. Do it. Just do it. Stop being scared. I mean, that's what the fans want. And sometimes fans don't understand the intricacies of, what's going on at practice. Hey, you don't know that my defense can't hold up here, but I do, so I got to do this. Or you don't know that guy can't make the play I'm asking him to do. You think he can. You don't really know. There's a lot of that going on too, but I promise you this, if you continue to play scared, if you continue to call the game scared, you're going to have games that look like LSU. And there's some teams on the schedule that can do that to you. Ole Miss, Alabama, they can do it. So you just can't do it. I think it's more detrimental to play to call the game that way and to have your team playing like they're worried all the time. I think that is more detrimental than just opening things up and doing what you think you're good at and hoping for the best.
I think you make an interesting point. All right, let's continue that conversation real quick. Shout out to gametime.co. Tickets for this week's game, Auburn Ole Miss, 6 o'clock, ESPN. If you need some last-minute tickets, go to gametime.co, download the app. Awesome pricing on games, not just games. They do concerts and comedy events and all kinds of cool stuff. Great partner of On3, great partner of Auburn Live, gametime.co. If you buy a ticket there, by the way, and you go find tickets somewhere else, they'll also refund you the gap in that as well. So if somebody beats their prices, you can get some of that money back if you show them, hey, I bought these, but somebody else hooked me up better. That's a good way to do it. I got people asking me for tickets all the time. I don't know. I don't have them. I just have my credentials, so I can't always hook people up with tickets, but gametime.co can do just that. So go do that. Go download their app. I started to see more of their commercials too. I guess it's one of those things where you start noticing commercials after you hear about the company. And then
There's
you see a commercial and you're like, oh,
name for something like that. Like when you buy a car and you start seeing that car everywhere.
it's exactly right. All of a sudden I see commercials from gametime.co. So they're clearly making a big push and trying to get rolling and do a bunch of good things. So go check them out, gametime.co. Great place for tickets, last minute tickets and things like that. Well, I don't know, Cole, you're going to go listen to Hugh Freeze and we'll talk to players this week and all that good stuff. And we'll reconvene in a couple of days and have some more thoughts after Hugh Freeze talks and we kind of get a little more data. But Saturday was surely a confusing day, and we'll see what they do. I'm not sure what changes they can make at this point. I mean, I don't know. We'll have to wait and see kind of what they try to do offensively and defensively. But I don't know. I mean, you come home, you got an opportunity to play well against Ole Miss. It's a shame that maybe you can't have the kind of momentum you wanted going into those last 3 games, or not last 3, those 3 winnable games. Of course, as I've been saying all year, those 3 games are winnable, yeah, but Arkansas is really close to having wins on the road against LSU and Alabama. 6 total points close. Even Vanderbilt has a better offense than Auburn right now. Like, you go mess around, and that game in Nashville will be tough. So we'll see how they can try to regroup. We'll talk to Hugh Freeze and see what he said after watching the film. That should be a very interesting session with the media. He's generally pretty honest, pretty transparent. So we'll see what he says. We'll have coverage of that at auburnlive.com. Recruiting coverage, big recruiting weekend on the horizon.
Yeah, it should be.
Yeah.
We have a few names that are expected to be there that are pretty big, and
Cool.
I think that Hugh Freeze is in his comfort level when he's got recruits coming. I think he actually thrives in that environment, knowing that he's going to get a chance to make a pitch at recruits and their families. And I actually think that loosens him up a little bit when it comes to the game. And that might be one of the reasons that they play better at home. So my early prediction for Ole Miss is that Auburn's going to play better. I mean, they can't play any worse. But I do believe offensively, defensively, I think they're going to play more loose and they're going to have a better week. I just believe that right now. I could be very wrong.
So here's what we're going to do. We're going to we got all the venting out from the LSU game. We got the venting out, which is kind of all you can do after that performance. It was so bad. There was not a lot to break down. I mean, it was just a collapse in a lot of different areas. Get the venting out. Go to auburnlive.com. Read what Hugh Freeze has to say during his Monday press conference. Read the words. And then we'll go from there. We'll come back on Wednesday. And we'll have, I think, some deeper thoughts on what Freeze said after watching the film. Try to analyze that a little bit. Think ahead to Ole Miss and what that could look like on Saturday, another 6 p.m. ESPN game. So let's do that. Go to auburnlive.com. Check it out. A lot of football and recruiting coverage this week. They're running a big game special again at auburnlive.com. I think it's half off for, was it 50% off annual?
50% annual and still just $1.
Right.
If you join us for a month, see how you like it. Of course you will. So definitely.
So it is a big game. So you're like, big game. No, it's a big game. It's a big game for Auburn. When you're 0-3 and you're coming home and you got a team that's in the top 15, it's a big game. I mean, it's, it'd be a massive one for Auburn to try to win. So go check it out. Big game special, auburnlive.com. Special shout out to our show sponsor, Session Cocktail, downtown Auburn, right there on Magnolia Avenue. Go visit them, hang out with them on Saturday. Or if you live in Auburn, go check them out. Happy hours 4 to 6. Great spot to go have a drink after work, unwind, all that good stuff. Session Cocktail, downtown Auburn. All right, Cole's going to handle Hugh Freeze. I'm going to Birmingham for a Monday morning quarterback luncheon. I'm going to listen to Shannon Terry speak a little bit about On3, and he'll probably talk about NIL and all that good stuff. And then we'll talk to players Tuesday, and then we'll be back after that with another show this week to sort of recap a lot of that, have a lot more information and informed opinions after listening to a lot of that. Try to make sense of what just happened and make sense of some stuff moving forward. So appreciate everybody for joining us. Subscribe to YouTube, turn on notifications, please. That will really help as well. All right, for Cole and Justin, I'm out. See ya.